Good morning. We are entering the final stretch of our online classes. So the last one will be next Monday. And we're just going to run restorative classes from now until that Monday. And today's class is going to be more yin style. So you'll notice a few differences with the poses today. Some of the wise actions are different, which I'll point out to you. Sometimes there's less propping in yin style yoga, but the result is the same. It's a quieting practice. It's really very deeply nourishing to the body. And we'll finish with pranayama and Savasana. So let's just start by sitting quietly and centering, and just take a moment to make some adjustments so that you feel that you're sitting in alignment, but also that you're really kind of dialing down as much effort as you can. So you're perfecting your alignments. You can really be quiet and not as effortful as you might be. Just begin to close the eyes and drop the shoulders. Looking away from your brain. Just detecting any tension that you're holding by default. It might be in the face. There's a lot of tension we hold in our facial skin, the muscles that surround the eyes and mouth, the forehead, across the brow line. And slackening your jaw, softening your throat. Letting go of any gripping in the shoulders. Softening the abdomen. And see if you can sense the weight of your leg bones. Just inviting the weight of the legs to really settle in toward the floor. As you let go of the weight of the legs, maybe feeling a release in your groins and your hips. Maybe feeling an additional amount of support. Just watching the next several breaths as they fill and empty from the body. Just using this time not only to possibly set an intention for yourself, but maybe also just to get a baseline sense of how much tension you're carrying in the body, the brain, emotional body. Take a nice deep breath in and just let it go as completely as you can. Joining your hands together in front of the heart on an exhale, bowing toward your heart. Release your hands, lift your head, and let your eyes gently open. And welcome everyone. So we're going to start off with a very modified reclining hero pose. This is where we use the chair. So if you have a chair, you're going to use it now. If you don't have a chair, we'll just get by without the chair. You'll just use your hands to kind of sense a reclining back feeling. You're going to use the bolster or some combination of blankets if you have to kind of imitate a bolster. And you're going to sit on it so that it's running vertically or lengthwise underneath you. So your knees, it's not going to look like the classical hero pose because our knees are going to be wide. Our feet are going to be kind of closer to the bolster, but you're going to have a lot of support underneath you. The chair is going to be to recline back on. So you're going to want to kind of do a test recline and see where it hits you. We all have different chairs, all have different bodies. So we have to kind of test things out. And you're going to sit back and attempt to get it to hit you across the shoulder blade area, which is of course behind the chest. So we want to kind of support that opening. You might have a material like metal or wood, and you might want to make it softer and put a blanket on the seat. Don't have to, but it's just a comfort measure if you'd like that. So just spend a little time before you recline, just sitting here, kind of feeling yourself in the upright position, putting your shoulders in line with the hips, your skull in line with the spine. Already feeling a nice opening to the front ankles. As you feel ready, you're going to start to move back. And we're going to attempt to grab the opposite elbows. That might be a lot to do initially. So you might keep the arms low, just kind of recline back. You might notice you want to put something under your head. Feel free to do that. You could add a block, or you could add something else that supports the head. So we get this really nice back bend, but it's very supported. It's not as deep as a classical Supta Virasana. We can feel this great invitation to open the breath, open the diaphragm, open the heart, the chest and shoulders, getting that really nice posterior pelvic tilt. And notice how much of the body and this practice is about meeting your own resistances. So in other practices, not restorative, we're applying good effort. And in restorative practice, we're really trying to identify where the body carries effort when it really isn't needed. We all do this. And so the idea is that we're as supported as we can be so that we can drop those resistances. We can break through the layers of the onion. We can become more supple, soft versions of ourselves. We'll be here another minute. So just scanning the body and just running your attention along the body and finding places that maybe are gripping, they're holding back. Sometimes just the awareness alone is enough to break up these areas of tension in the body. Sometimes a little more breath can help as well. And not always does the tension release, but just raising the awareness around this phenomenon. Just another 4 or 5 breaths, another half a minute. We want to come out really intentionally. So first thing, if your arms are up, you're going to start to lower them. You might be able to find a place to put the hands so you can press down. You're going to lead yourself out with the sternum kind of foremost in the front body. And we're going to move into child's pose to counter that back bend. So we are done with the chair. You don't need it on your mat anymore. You don't need it in your area so much. You can push it away. If you want to use the bolster for the child's pose to support anywhere from the chest, the abdomen, the head, you can use the bolster for your support. And again, really the work is to identify, once you're in the general shape of the pose, how much gripping is going on that just doesn't need to be there. Let your spine lengthen with every breath. Let the back body also broaden with every breath. Try to keep the head in position so that the back of the neck stays long, it's not creased. You might slide your point of contact closer to the hairline. If you have one cheek placed, you might want to turn your head to let the other cheek rest, let the neck turn in the other direction for a few more breaths. Bring your awareness to your hip joints. This is an area that oftentimes has tension. It doesn't need to be there. We're going to come into a side child's pose, and the yin style is just slightly different. So we walk the hands over to the left. We come up a little bit with the chest so that we can really try to center our torso over the left thigh. And today, instead of keeping the hands shoulder distance, the yin version is just to take your right hand onto the left wrist. You have a little bit more support that way. You're just kind of taking right hand to the left wrist. You have something to hold on to, and you're going to feel the right side body really opening here. You might want to put something under the head. So if your head's kind of free floating, that's fine, but it can be quieter if you tuck something under your head for support. So yin practice is less about stretching muscles, more about putting good stress on bones and joints and organs. And some of the wise actions we do in the Iyengar style of classes and restorative practice, there's different wise actions. Like I said, I'll just kind of keep pointing them out as I can. Just a few more breaths here, elongating the right side body. Feel free to go any farther if you want to. Otherwise, we're going to come out in about 3 more breaths. If you have any knee discomfort in these poses we've been doing, hero pose and now the forward hero pose, this is deep knee flexion. So you can always sandwich a blanket from the backs of the knees over the lower legs. And that can create a little bit of a spacer for the knees. It's really supportive and can take away some of that discomfort if you have that. We're going to move to the other side now. So just start to crawl your way there. Try to stay low. You're going to come up a little bit so you can bring your torso as kind of squarely over your right thigh as you can. And then crossing that left hand to hold the right wrist, just to give your left side body this really nice, deep elongation. Your head is supported, or you're just letting the head dangle. Just make sure your neck is tension free. Good stress on the right hip joint. Acknowledge it, breathe into it. Good massage and toning for the center body organs here. Nice compaction. You're going to start to come out slowly, crawling your way to center. And then bring yourself up. We're going to come into a very modified version of the revolving hand to big toe pose, reclining. So we're going to use a bolster to prop the leg that goes sideways, and we're going to keep that leg bent. So a 90-degree knee position. So you can start on your back. we're going to be taking the left leg over to the right onto that bolster. So the bolster should be waiting for you on the right side. So try to roll your hips, but not your shoulders. So it's like you're twisting already. You're going to roll your hips so that the right hip comes under, the left hip comes above, and step your left knee onto the bolster. And then put the legs in passivity. So you don't need to hold any fixed, rigid, effortful position with the legs. Save that for another class. You could keep your left hand on your side body. You could unfold the left arm out to the side. You could follow the left hand with your gaze to complete that twist. So sometimes when I do this, I notice that the bolster slides because oftentimes it's not on the mat. So if that becomes an issue for you, you can adjust yourself so that the bolster's on the mat, it's not sliding. And putting the spine into this really juicy twist. So the same work, every time you set the pose up, then the next stage is really how you're relating to the pose. Are you kind of in a tight little knot holding the pose? Are you unraveling the knot? Are you starting to let go of those tensions? Are you surrendering? Try to really sense your own weight meeting the floor. And really exhausting the exhalations. One of the ways we stay tight or tense is the fascia, the surface skin. It's like a tight little knot. We've all kind of had the experience of taking a t-shirt and just twisting it. Maybe you have, I shouldn't assume that, but the fascia is the same. If you have part of the fascia that's tight, the whole network is affected. So just imagine, so we're using the exhale to relate to our own heaviness. Use your inhale to expand the fascia. So the most surface tissue of flesh that you have. Every inhale, just kind of releasing that twisted knot of the fascia and letting it expand and relax. Largest organ in the body is the skin. Couple more breaths. To come out, you're going to just start by bending both knees even more than they already are and rolling back onto your level sacrum, your level hips. And you can figure out how you're going to do second side. For me, I'm going to do a 180 on my mat so I can keep facing you. Otherwise, you can carry your mat over to your left side now. I meant your bolster, not your mat, sorry. And just start feeling really even on your back body before you roll those hips. So when you're even on the back body, we're going to attempt to keep the shoulders even as we roll the hips. This time, left hip is under, right hip is above. We're going to bend that right knee and prop that knee onto the bolster. You might unfold your right arm. You might follow it with the gaze. You might keep right hand draping on the side body. You might be looking straight up at the ceiling. So just abiding by the needful in the body. And then the fun part is just watching the body's own response to what you've put it into, what shape you're holding, and how the body responds. So again, connect with your own heaviness. Any resistance between you and the floor, try to merge with the floor, try to let it go. Deep diving into those exhales. And once you have that sense of heaviness, then start to play with the expansive inhalation. Like you're actually making yourself bigger with each breath. Notice where you're still holding back. Anytime you discover an area that's holding back, apply the attention and the breath. Just be here another 3 breaths. We're going to come out with the knees bending even more than they are now, rolling onto your back. And once you're there, just take a moment to align yourself in a fully reclined position, stretching the spine long, lengthening the hips away from the shoulders, extending the legs one at a time, unfolding the arms. And just drop into a couple breaths, completely passive in your body, no effort. The yoga makes us really good at transitioning from effort to non-effort. We get really good at being able to rest ourselves spontaneously. Nice deep breath. And now we're going to be transitioning once again. So bend your knees, place your feet on the floor, roll to your side. We're going to do a couple movements for the hips. So things you might need. We're going to be in kind of a low lunging position. So things you might need are a blanket, make it thin for your kneeling knee. So you can just spread it out across the middle third of your mat, a couple blocks, and possibly your bolster. You may not need any of this, so it's kind of just available if you sense your body would like more support. So the setup for first side is going to be the right foot stepping forward, the left knee kneeling, and the left knee should be behind the line of the left hip. So we're not having this perfectly 90-degree setup. You want to have your left knee farther back so that you're inviting your left front thigh to elongate. One way you can support that stretch on the left thigh is to push your bolster kind of toward the knee zone so that you have a prop for the front thigh. If sometimes we're not supported enough, we just hold a tension pattern in the body and we have no benefit. We're just in a tension pattern with ourselves, which is kind of pointless. So prop that front left thigh if you need that to get that yawning open effect. I love it. I think it's a great prop here. And then the blocks are if you put your forearms down and you're not able to come to the floor, the blocks are going to raise the floor and bring it up to you. So you can work with any height of block so that you have the gap filled between your forearms and the floor. So this first pose, we're putting really good strain and what's the word I'm looking for? Good stress on the right hip joint. You're going to be folded forward the whole time. You're not coming up, so your forearms should be restful. Both blocks are within the space of the right foot. Some people find it a little bit more enjoyable to turn the right toes out about 45 degrees. But every time you exhale, remember that idea that we're connecting with the floor, we're setting down our own weight, we're sinking into that really nice, juicy, lubricated right hip joint. Let your head just kind of passively dangle. And so even though we're in a pretty high sensation position, really hopefully not a lot of effort is happening. So analyze that within your body of where you're kind of stuck or holding back or not quite on board with this, and see if you can break through another layer of the onion. Sometimes if we're not able to let go of resistance, we either have to add some propping, adjust the propping, or change the position. You guys look great. 4 more breaths here. Let something go with each exhale. Lately, I've been really enjoying open mouth, ha sounding exhales. That for me, they've been, I don't know, they help me let go in poses and in life. Another thing to annoy my kids with, my ha sounding exhales. So we're going to transition this to a slight change. It's going to involve a twist. So the left arm will remain down. I personally usually drop it down a height. You might not need to or want to, but that's what I do. So left forearm stays down. Right foot uproots so that you're just resting on the outer right foot. So the knee falls out wide. And then right hand can just kind of push away on your right thigh, or might be your knee. And you're just kind of enjoying this twist now. And your hip will be talking to you. So give it some breath. Connect the dots from your tailbone to the crown of the head so you have a consistent streaming channel of energy. So one piece of yin yoga that is a departure from like the Iyengar style is to go with momentum. So for instance, the heavy head, we all probably have some training inside to keep the head supported now. And I told you to connect the dots, but just to make it really yin style, let your head go, let your head fall, go with momentum. Feel what the weight of the skull and the head does to the pose. Maybe even close your eyes and soften the face. Another part of our training is to keep some distance between your left ear and shoulder. So don't worry about that. See what happens when you let your head fall onto your shoulder. Okay. So to come out, you really want to push down with your left arm. We're going to come all the way out and step back with the right knee. And you're just going to pause for a couple of breaths in your child's pose. You might have that bolster there. You might use it for child's pose. We're just coming to a centered position, sitting back, breathing deeply. And we'll set up the second side, those same two poses. So if you want to kind of repeat what you just did, you might be propping the front right thigh now. So the bolster comes right in front of your right knee. The left foot steps forward. The blocks might be shifted a little bit off to the right side of the mat so you can have both arms inside the space of the left knee. And to create a little more room and comfort, you might turn your left toes slightly out. So I find that this can give a little bit more aeration to the pose, especially on a restorative practice where we don't need to work with clamping and such actions that are effortful. And then finding the height of block that you need so you can put your forearms down. So the idea is to really surrender onto that front left right thigh, and the bolster is a great friend if you're not able to really let go. If you kind of wedge a soft prop there, you should be able to kind of drop into the pose a little bit more completely. And then the head is passively hanging. Every time you exhale, just think about plunging that left femur head into the hip joint. Think about this really nice elongation to the front right fascia, connective tissue. And really try to get the dial down on the effort. So maybe a little more turnout with your left foot, maybe a higher support to the forearms, maybe your head hasn't truly let go yet. So really investigate where you aren't quite on board with this. Remembering the opportunity of each side of the breath. Setting down your weight with the exhale. Expanding your whole body with the inhale. Okay, so the final piece here is going to be that twist. So you'll keep your right forearm down. You might elevate that block if you decide you need a little more room. You're going to uproot the inner left foot. So just let the knee fall out a little wider. The big toe ball mound comes off the floor. You're going to take your left hand and just support that turnout with a little bit of pressure to the knee or thigh. And just start to spiral your chest toward the left. Let your head go. Your head might actually be resting on your right shoulder. Three more breaths. Good. On an inhale, really push down through your right arm. Come out of that twist. Take your left leg back and return to child's pose. Just a few moments quietly sitting back, massaging both hip joints now, resting the head. We're going to kind of come onto our front side. And the blanket, if you have one down for kneeling, is is actually nice here because it will give you support to the hip bones and the pelvis and the pubic bone. And then the bolster, or whatever you're using to act as a bolster today, is going to be coming under the chest and some of the abdomen. So we're taking our supported Sphinx pose. So what you want to kind of do once you have the setup is see that your elbows are under your shoulders, that you've smushed that bolster back. So it's right behind the upper arms. Your elbows are there, and you're going to keep your palms up, which gives us a little more articulation of the chest spreading and the arms turning out from the inner armpits outward. And then take a moment to arrange your legs so they're a little wider than your hips, and all 10 toes are sitting down evenly across the floor. So you want to be on the centers of the thighs. And then you're going to let the head fall. Let the head fall. So go with momentum, turn the dial down. Keep gently thinking about your buttocks spreading like melted butter in the sunshine. Keep the buttocks soft. And we're going to do like an intermediate step before we do more of a deep back bend. So prayer hands, elbows step forward, palms meet, and forehead rests against thumbs. You should be as passive as you can possibly be. Let your belly smush against the floor, pushing the breath into the back body. And with the position of the head against the thumbs, try to envision or sense that the back of the neck is crease free. So aligning your head in such a way that the back of the neck is long. Imagine that there's a marionette above you and they have strings attached to your inner thighs. And they're gently lifting the inner thighs up. Okay, so we're going to go into the final stage here. We're going to be taking our hands to the corners of the mat, fingers pointed out 45 degrees, arms locked out, meaning your elbows are fully extended. And then you pressurize the hands so that you can bring yourself into a deeper back bend and spiral the inner elbows up. Look up nice and high. Don't forget the melting buttocks. Keep the image of the marionette above you, lifting your inner thighs present as well. And even though the head is kind of thrown back here, you can keep your eyes passive. You might even close them. Let your breath work its magic. You're holding a shape for the breath to work its magic on. So just take a few more moments here. You're going to start to move your head forward. You can step your hands kind of closer to your torso somewhere. You're going to be pressing yourself out of the prone position. We're going to be putting ourselves in a bent knee position with both feet off to the right. Bolster is going to be aligning in front of your left shin. Your legs can be as obtuse as you want them to be. Just find your comfort in your legs. You might elevate your left buttock if you're feeling a little collapsed. You might put a blanket under the left buttock. We're going to be folding forward onto the bolster. So just beginning by coming forward with the forearms. Again, the head can just fall toward the bolster. You might have an easy way of propping the head. So do what feels best, but consider the shoulders when you do place the head. We want the shoulders really feeling off duty. So if they're kind of gripping or jumping up to the ears, you might have to change or play with your head position a little bit. So in another class, we might be trying to correct the imbalance happening in the weight of the sitting bones. We might be trying to hold ourselves in alignment. And in yin, you really go with the shape that you build. So you built the shape, we did that. Now you're just yielding to it. You're trying to address those tensions that are there, the resistances, and trying to become as passive and heavy as you can. We're going to take 3 more breaths here. After an exhale, you're just going to start to inhale a little bit upright, so not all the way. This will be a little similar to the 2 lunges we just did. So we're going to keep the left forearm down. I meant to say right, sorry. Right forearm. Good. Left hand is propped up to the side, tented up on the fingers. And you're just going to kind of corkscrew the spine. So you're peeking your chest to the left. But then let the head relax. You don't have to hold that head, just let the head relax. You might even have your right ear in contact with your shoulder. A little bit of a juicy twist here. Maybe the eyes close, maybe they're passive and soft and open. If you sense you want to go deeper, you can bring that right elbow more directly in front of the left knee, still on the bolster. You might have to also adjust your left fingertips farther. Okay, a couple more breaths. You're going to use an inhale to gently leave that deep twist. Come all the way upright once you have exited the twist. And we will transition to the other side. So we're putting one hip. Now the right hip is going to be externally rotated out of that big internal rotation, and then vice versa with the left hip. So just checking in here before you come into the forward fold, you might, again, additionally want to prop the right buttock. You're going to align your bolster in front of the right shin. Didn't say this on the other side, but if you need to add height, you could put blankets there, you could put your blocks. If you feel like it's too collapsed or compressed with the direct onto the bolster height. And then you're going to let the head bow. So give up any holding in your neck. Become passive. Maybe the shoulders jump up. Maybe your head shrinks toward your chest. Just kind of go with it. Go with momentum. I like to think about warm taffy. If you ever seen taffy being made, it's all gooey and pliable when it's warm. So yin practice really reminds me of warm taffy. It's going with the laxity. Notice the parts of the body that your breath swirls around in this particular pose. Notice the signature of the breath in this pose. Yeah. My bird, we have a new bird and it doesn't talk except now that I'm on yoga, it's talking. Couple more breaths. Kind of keep this gooey, heavy state, but we're gonna bring in that little twisting. So left arm stays down, might just cross the forearm, cross the bolster. Right hand steps off the bolster onto the floor, propping up on the fingers. And you're just gonna start to peekaboo your chest off to the right. Let your head just hang freely. Don't try to resist gravity. Just opening yourself up to the breath, giving the spine this really juicy massage of a twist. If you want to go deeper, you can slide the left elbow closer to the right end of that bolster. You're going to come to the end of an exhalation and inhale out of the twist and upright. We're going to use the bolster and a blanket for pranayama so that we don't have to take a lot of time with the setup. So the blanket will be for the head. You want really ample height for your head because we want to have the chin and chest as close as we can bring them together. The bolster is really only for the rib cage area. So you might position your blanket just kind of halfway down the bolster so you're not trying to work with the full length of the bolster. And then as you recline back, try to see that you are just supporting the rib cage. And then you can kind of stuff that blanket under the head until you have the chin and chest really married. We want to really get those together. Of course, make sure you're warm enough. Make sure that you have decreased the environment around you of sensory input. And then you want to make sure that you take a little time with your alignment. So we want the buttocks flesh moving away from the torso. Sometimes when we get down, it scrunchels up toward the lower back. So take a moment. You might even run your hands under your butt. So you're kind of moving the flesh toward the feet. Feet are flopping open, wider than the hips, heels lengthened away from hips, arms unfolded so armpits can aerate, palms turned up. And you're just going to close your eyes and be with whatever breath is there. Give it your full attention. The practice today that we're going to do is Ujjayi exhalation. So just to familiarize, if you're not as familiar, it's a very delicate constriction of the throat as you exhale, which helps you to lengthen the exhale. It helps you to smooth and steady the exhale. We're looking for an even release of breath. So if you hear rippling or you sense rippling or cessation, that's a sign that you're overdoing the effort with the throat. To find the muscle, it's the same one you use to clear your throat, except the action is a lot more delicate. Another way to find the muscle is it's the ha sound, but with your lips sealed. So the breath moves in and out of the nostrils. So begin with an inhale, exhale, normal without the Ujjayi. Another normal inhale. And then simply one Ujjayi exhalation. When you meet the end of the breath, you're going to do a full cycle of non-Ujjayi. Inhale, exhale. Another inhale. And then another attempt on the Ujjayi exhale. So remember, the idea is to keep soothing the brain. Pranayama is how we continue soothing after the soothing of the nervous system with the asana, the practice of the poses. So if anything about the pranayama practice is agitating, we're going in the wrong direction. So if it's agitating to practice, just stick with your observation of breath. Ujjayi 1. If you're with the Ujjayi exhales, we're going to do 3 more wherever you are. Remember to space them with the easy inhale, exhale, inhale. If you've gotten through those 3, just you're back in breath observation without any restraints on the breath. Transition to Savasana. We're going to roll to one side as quietly as we can and just moving the props aside. You can keep a minimal head support, but we want the torso to be flat on the ground. So you're in Shavasana, zero effort pose. Let go of the efforts in the body. Any effort behind the breath, let that go. Any effort controlling your thoughts, let that go. Taking the role of the witness. Knowing ourselves without the tension. Sustaining presence through the act of observation. You're welcome to stay longer if you like. If you're ready to start to move out of the pose, you can invite some deeper breaths. Invite some simple movement into the fingers and toes. Moving on to your side body gently and slowly. See if you can move from sideline to seated with minimized effort. When you find yourself seated, joining the hands together in front of the heart. Sensing into the body, into the mind, into the heart. Sitting with the effects of this practice. Take a deep breath through the nose and let it go. Place within me that I know to be divine. I honor that place within each of you. Namaste. Thank you all for being here. I look forward to seeing you again soon. Maybe Wednesday, maybe Friday. Thank you.